Uh, my name is Scott Burns, and I'm interviewing Chris O'Brien today. Today is Tuesday, December 4th, 2018, and we're here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I just want to begin by asking about your military background. Why did you, what military branch did you choose, and why?
Absolutely. So I'm in the reserves, and I chose the military police branch. I wish I had a better story of why I did it. My father pretty much wanted me to join from the time I was 12, and I always said no. And I actually had a few friends. I was interested in policing at the time, but I had a few friends that were in the MP trade. So through going into university after high school, I made the decision that I was going to join the Canadian Armed Forces, and I chose the military police branch based off that.
Okay, thank you. In that training to be in the military police, did you receive any specialized training? Or
Yes, so about 4 years ago now, I got my close protection operators course under my belt. That's probably the most specialized training I've done with the military. It depends on your definition of specialized. I've taken many courses through the military. Some very interesting, some not so interesting, but that would definitely be the top course.
okay, and it's going into your service. Where in Afghanistan did you serve?
So I was in Kandahar province, in Panjwai district, and in Afghan district.
Okay, thank you. And what were your duties as military police?
So I was part of the Pomlet team there. It was a combination of military police and combat arms. So that's the police operational mentor liaison team, and our role was to do operations in the regions, did missions, operations, things like that, in conjunction with the Afghan police, trying to train them, try to take them with us, show them what we do and how to do it. So everything we did, we had to do with them. So we worked hand in hand with them from start to finish.
Right. What were some notable memories or experiences that come to mind from that time?
So there's a lot. I mean, I was 19 the time when I went. So I met a lot of great people. The people I worked with were the best of the best. I had a lot of great leadership. They taught me a lot, especially at such a young age. But just the camaraderie of actually working with a group like that, being young, I think it shaped my outlook on what we have here in Canada as well. But I would say the people that I was with, what we did there, interacting with the local population, and just seeing a part of the country that doesn't have what we have in Canada.
Of course. What kind of friendships did you make in Afghanistan? What kind of people did you meet there?
Well, starting with the people I was there with, when I was in Afghan, I was actually with the Americans for about just over 2 months.
Really?
So I still stay in contact with quite a few of them. The 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne is who we were with while we were there. Mostly the 82nd, I believe, was the one that stayed with us. So I'm still in contact with them. Plus my section, the Palma team. I've been to every one of their weddings. Actually, just last week, 2 of them came down to visit from Ontario and Quebec. And we still maintain that friendship today. And we were there in 2010, so we're going back about 8 years, and we're still in touch.
That's fantastic. Did you witness any combat in your time?
Yes.
If I may ask, what happened in these times?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Well, with that, you watch a team come together. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
What was it like coming back home with that experience that you had in Afghanistan, working with the Americans, working with the Afghan National Police? What do you draw from that experience?
Motivation, really, I guess. I came back and I went right back into university because I went after my first year university. So being where we were and doing what we did, it basically just motivates me to be able to do things that I do in Canada on a day-to-day basis, whether it's with the military or with my civilian job, to be able to tackle obstacles a little bit differently and overcome them.
And has your military service impacted your feelings about the war or the military in general?
No, I mean, I still love the military. I've been in now just going on 11 years with it. If it did, I wouldn't be with the military. And from that, it allows myself and others that have been there to pass on the experience to the junior soldiers that are coming up and make sure that they have the best training that they can have.
What do you feel that training entails for them? For it's their first time, say, going out into the combat zone. What would you say they need to understand before embarking on that step?
I mean, it's just preparation and training really for that. Make sure that they're mentally prepared and physically prepared, no matter what deployment is, Afghanistan or any other deployments with that, because we still have people deployed around the world currently. So just giving them the tools to actually be able to accomplish the mission.
Of course. Let's see. Is there anything you'd like to add about your experience?
I mean, it was probably the best experience as far as shaping me where I'm at now. I mean, I'm 28 years old. I'm doing business. I did my undergrad in accounting, and now I do business with that. And I think with that, it's just the drive for it. And I quite honestly don't know if I would have that if I didn't go or have joined the military. Just kind of tackling, like I said before, tackling obstacles a little bit differently. Being able to overcome stuff, and even the training that we still do today. In Canada when we train, to be able to do that and be able to do my civilian job, it's fun. I still enjoy it. I enjoy the military and all that it has to offer, and I also just like seeing the younger generation still interested and engaged with the military.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, we're good whenever.
All right. I'm Scott Burns, and I'm interviewing Chris Tracy here today. It's December 4th, Tuesday, 2018. We're here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Chris, I start by asking, how did you join the military? What got you into it?
From childhood, really, I kind of knew I was going to join the military. My grandfather grew up during the Second World War and had family who served. So growing up in Cape Breton, my childhood was kind of infused with documentaries about the Second World War and about the Korea, because I had family who had served there. And I guess I saw it so much, I just kind of decided that's what I was going to do. And I think it was so obvious, because the kids in my neighborhood used to refer to me as G.I. Joe. It was set from the beginning. This is what I'm doing. I'm joining the military. That's it. That's my life.
It's just one of those things where you know from the heart that you're set on doing it.
Yeah.
Sure. What branch did you choose? And
I chose the Army because I grew up in a harbor town, so I'm not too fond of boats. And when I was a child, my eyesight was too bad to be in the Air Force. So I joined the Army, joined with the Cape Breton Highlanders in Cape Breton originally. Spent 4.5 years with them. And then one day I was on exercise in a trench on Jerusalem Ridge in Gagetown training area. And I was miserable, up to my knees in water, hanging off the back end of a machine gun, with the bugs biting me and the humidity driving up. And I watched a Kiowa helicopter, an observer helicopter, fly overhead, and I looked at the Kiowa, and I was 18 years old. I was like, oh, I'm not smart enough to do that. My eyesight's poor. And then I saw a military police truck drive up the corridor, and all the windows were up in his truck, and I thought, that crazy son of a bitch, it's boiling out here. And then it hit me. He's got air conditioning. And he's going home and getting a shower tonight. And I was like, oh, maybe that's something I should be looking into. So it took a few years, and then finally I did what's called a component transfer from the infantry over to the military police. And that was in 1998. And
there you go.
Still with the MPs.
It's quite a story. In your time in Afghanistan, are there any key stories that you think highlight your experience?
There's lots, and actually it's really difficult to pick just one. Some of them aren't appropriate for putting up on YouTube. Not because anything bad happened, just because of the sense of humor of soldiers.
Yeah.
And some of the ridiculous stuff that we do just to entertain ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a ridiculous story I could tell you, and it kind of sticks out in my mind. I was my friend Chris O'Brien. Chris is a close protection operator. I was one of the first MPs that was doing close protection and kind of got trained on the fly in close protection, no official courses. We got trained in theater by a Kansoff comm unit that was in there doing a similar job. So it was literally into the country you go. I was with the Military Police Security Service at the time. Into the country you go, and by the way, here's your guns. Good luck. These guys are going to show you the ropes, and it worked out. So we had the Canadian ambassador, first Canadian ambassador to Afghanistan, at President Karzai's compound. This is only about 2 or 3 weeks into the tour, and my tour was a year long. I spent a year there from July 03 to July 04, and we all had a bad case of diarrhea from getting used to the local food because you're eating on the economy. Your water, you got to be real careful about the water you drink. And someone this particular day wasn't real careful about the water, and they grabbed some water from the locals, not realizing it wasn't nice, fresh, clean bottled water, but it was stuff that came out of the local taps. And I'm standing by the armor, and all of a sudden my gut started to turn. I was like, holy hell. And there was one of the American guys who's in the president's compound. He looks at me and goes, "You okay?" I'm like, "No, man." And I'm holding my stomach. And he goes, "Oh, dude, go." And I could see a blue rocket across the parking lot that I was sitting in. But the rule in Karzai's compound was don't run. If you run, you're going to get shot by the snipers on the rooftops. And I started to walk, and I'm just walking at speed. And the guy's yelling, "Run, run, go, man, go!" And then he's yelling to the guys on the rooftop and keying up his mic, and he's going, "Don't shoot the Canadian, he's going to shit his pants." And off I go running, make it in there, and I'm expecting rounds to start whizzing by me, but at this point I'm like, I don't care, shoot me, I'm miserable anyway. But I made it. Yeah, didn't embarrass myself in the president's compound, which was good because later that day I actually got to meet President Karzai. When our ambassador was talking to him.
That's a pretty wild story.
It's one of the ridiculous stories, and you end up with a lot of stories like that. Mm-hmm. You end up with so many stories, so many things happen that they just become normal for you. Mm-hmm. It's funny. You'll be driving down the street, and in Kabul when I was there, Toyota Corollas were everywhere. In yellow and white taxi cab Toyota Corollas were everywhere. And every week we'd get a new report about VBIEDs, vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, car bombs, that had entered the city. And they'd say 10 additional VBIEDs entered Kabul. Description of the vehicle is a yellow and white Toyota Corolla taxi cab configuration. And you're just like, shit, man, there's 90,000 of them in the city alone. So you're driving around, and anytime you look to the left or right here, in front or behind you, there's a yellow and white Toyota Corolla. But you just got to the point where you're like, if it's my day, it's my day. There's nothing I can do about it. Can't go out and deal with every one of them. But things like that just become commonplace. Mm-hmm. It becomes your life. It becomes your day-to-day. And those things don't stand out anymore. Like getting rocketed, that doesn't stand out in your mind anymore because it happens so often. It becomes your new norm. It becomes your new baseline. So you have lots of stories, but you forget them until days like Remembrance Day when you sit down, you start having a few beers, and guys say, "Hey man, when I was in this spot, this happened," or "Hey, you remember when this happened?" And then all those memories start coming back. You start remembering those stories. And then the next day, you're like, "What were those stories again? I can't remember." It just kind of all goes away.
Yeah, I guess it's it's when you're with your brothers that have gone through a similar experience. You can really dig down into what happened, and it's about sharing and talking about it. Really, I believe helps with sort of processing these tumultuous events in your lives. Is there any? What was the day to day like in Afghanistan?
For me, it was basically wake up, get something to eat, and I mean we had to work shift because we lived in the Canadian embassy. At the time we just stood up the embassy, so we had our contingent was just starting in Afghanistan. This was 2003. There was no Canadian embassy before that. This embassy was stood up for that mission. Camp Julian was just being built. The theater activation team from Gagetown was just there, just being built. And it's the first time, actually, it was the first time I'd seen my cousin Jimmy in about 5 years. He lived down the road from me in Gagetown, hadn't seen him in 5 years, and run into him in Afghanistan. You just wake up, you have something to eat, check your gear, go talk to your TL, your team lead, and find out what you're going to be doing that day, what's the boss's agenda, where you're going to be going, and do the workouts you need to do to make sure that you move him around that city safely. And with as little risk to him as possible. And in the CP world, we say it's in the post protection world, it's 90% waiting around, 10% excitement. And the excitement, it's just like pilots. When they're in the air, everything is nice and quiet, calm, and flying. And we're at a venue, things are pretty chill. But the 10% is takeoff and landing. For us, the 10% is actually moving to or from the venue. That's when hairs in the back of your neck stand up and your spidey senses are tingling.
What type of risks do you face in such a urban setting where all the cars look the same and you can't? It's hard to tell sometimes where the threats come, and you really need to keep your head on a swivel.
It's not even the cars; it's the people as well. So the types of threats that you're gonna face are suicide bombers with bombs strapped to them. Who just look like the local populace. The BBIEDs that are going to be driving to and from you, just looking for a target of opportunity. Something as simple as what was quite common when I was there is a pressure cooker on the side of the road. Everybody cooked their food, and people could walk up and buy food from other vendors on the side of the road. So pressure cookers are very common. And there was a lot of bombs placed in pressure cookers. So you could be driving by, and that pressure cooker that holds 20 liters of water might have, 10 pounds of explosive in it with shrapnel, and they're just waiting for a target of opportunity. So it's trying to predict the unpredictable. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite sayings is your body can't go where your mind hasn't been. So when you're driving down that road and you're looking at stuff, you're like, okay, I got my eyes on that, and that pressure cooker. Where can we go from here to try to mitigate the risk and avoid it? Okay, if we can't mitigate the risk and avoid it and that blows up, what are we going to do? How are we going to react to contact? What are we going to do with the boss? How are we going to debus him from the vehicle? Where are we going to move him to? Or both of our vehicles going to be hit? And you're developing all these plans. It's all just happening as you're driving towards it. And you learn to think a lot faster than you ever thought you could. Because your reaction time relies on having that plan already formulated and sitting there, so your body can go, right, that plan, pull it and do it, and try to get out of that situation.
What you were talking about, the that sort of accelerated reaction time.
Yeah.
How's that? What's your experience been coming back home and reverting back to the de-accelerated reaction time?
I came home on leave from Afghanistan, and the first time I came home on leave, because I got to come home twice. The first time I came home on leave, I was living in the PMQ's base Gagetown, and my ex-wife had looked at me and said, first she didn't like my beard, because I had a pretty bad ass beard at the time. And at the time, I was 27 years old. I still had hair, because I hadn't been divorced yet, too. So she said, tomorrow morning, after I flew in, she said, tomorrow morning, you're shaving your beard off, and we're taking you into the city to get a haircut. So I was like, okay. My own dog didn't recognize me when I pulled in the driveway. She stood in the yard, and she barked at me and couldn't figure out why she knew the voice, but didn't know me. So we got in my SUV. We started heading into Fredericton, and I didn't realize I was driving right down the center line of the road. not close to the center line, like the center line of the road was right up the center of my vehicle, and I was about 2 feet off the bumper of the car in front of me. And my ex-wife, wife at the time, she's telling me, Chris, back off, get on your side, back off. And all I could think was, the hell's wrong with you? We can't get that close to the side of the road because you stay far away from the bad spots, right? And then it just took a quick second. I was like, oh, right, Canada. Slowed the vehicle down, made sure I was on my side of the road, and looked there and I said, maybe you should drive back after we go into the city. And she's like, I think that's a good idea. So, yeah, so it takes adjusting. It takes a lot of adjusting. To this day, going at this time of year, especially, the shopping malls and stuff are crowded, loaded with people. Going into a situation like that after spending a year doing close protection, it's tough. You're on edge the whole time. You're looking at people. You're looking at faces, looking for their expressions. You're looking at their hands. What are their hands doing? What are they wearing? And you just have to try to calm yourself down, talk yourself down in your head, like, okay, cool, man. She's walking out of Bed Bath and Beyond, and she's got a rug in her hand. So you're okay, Chris. There's nothing gonna happen there, right? So it's an adjustment, and it doesn't happen overnight. You can't expect somebody to come out of a theater of operation and just be normal. And when I say normal, I mean the person that they used to be, the person that you thought that they were before they went. Because every experience, day to day, changes you. It doesn't matter what it is. Even here at home in Canada, in a safe environment, everything you experience every day changes you. So you experience a lot more change in your environment like that.
You know, I completely agree with that. You know, I think that a lot of it is I found that when someone goes to war, they will not come back the same person. People go. Some may not come home alive, but they all will come home. But even those that do come home alive do not come uninjured. I believe that everyone holds a piece of the conflict.
I wouldn't call it uninjured. I'd call it unchanged.
Unchanged.
Everybody comes back. No one comes back unchanged. It's going to change you. I actually feel, even though my tour was long. I went there in July 2003, and I came out of there in July 2004. And it changed me. It was long. It was a hard tour. It was an exciting tour because we were breaking ground. And it was a fun tour. I made a lot of friends and connections that I still have to this day. My interpreters at our embassy and our drivers, I still keep in contact with them. It's in fact the only reason I have a certain social media account that none of my friends or family here in Canada even know about. Sorry, and I won't give it to them because the only purpose of it is to keep in contact with the people that I met over there. I keep in contact with a friend of mine who is a British close protection operator at the British Embassy. And I hung around with that guy for 3-4 months because we had a lot of stuff together, and we'd get together for beers and go over to the embassy for supper and stuff. And I still talk to him today. My interpreters, most of them are married. I have a friend of mine who's actually over there right now doing CP at the embassy, and he sent me a message through one of them, and they're contacting me and saying Nathan says hi. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know Nathan was over. Didn't even know he'd gone over to do a stint, but they're telling me that he says hi, showing me pictures of their kids that they have now and where their homes are, and telling them to keep me up to date with their lives and how things are, and asking me about my life. You develop bonds with that as well.
Is there anything that you wish to add about all of these relationships that you've talked about, that you've made there and here, and that you've kept up? What would you like to add about what that experience, that relationship with those people? What does that do for you?
It gives me a sense of normalcy. Like I said, you come back changed. There's no avoiding that. But if everybody around you notices you're changed, they tend to treat you differently. Keeping in contact with those people, like even if Chris moves on and goes elsewhere with his career, I know we're going to keep in touch. Because I can call him up or send him a text and talk to him about something that someone else might think is bizarre. And I'm sure people sitting around and listen to our stories sometimes think they're bizarre, but they're normal. So it gives you a sense of belonging, a sense of a brotherhood. It's funny. I actually Sebastian Junger. I saw a TED Talk from Sebastian Junger just before this Remembrance Day, and prior to that, when people would ask me, "Would you go back?" 100%. I'd go back tomorrow. Tell me the plane. Tell me what time the plane's leaving. I'll have my kit packed and I'll be on that plane. And people think that's crazy. They think that's absolutely insane. Because one of two things happens to you: you want to go back, or you never want to see it again. I think I'm lucky to be one of the people who wants to go back, because it means that I got something from it. I grew from it. And that thing that you get, and Sebastian Junger talks about it in his TED Talk, is a camaraderie, a brotherhood, a feeling of belonging. You don't want to be there because it's war. You don't want to be there because you're warmongering or you love war. Like he says, we're programmed to look for that adrenaline. And says young men have been dying for years for doing stupid things, chasing after that dragon, chasing after that adrenaline, from setting things on fire to driving too fast to jumping off of stuff. But when you're over there and you're doing it with a team, especially the small teams you'll end up working in palmlets or in close protection roles, you really build a bond, you really build a brotherhood. And that's why you want to go back there. That's why you want to do it, is to have that again, to have that sense of belonging, and to be with those kind of quality people that you know, if it comes down to it, they're going to die so that you can get home. And they know that you're going to die so that they can get home. You don't want to. You don't want to do that. It's not something that you desire to do. You don't hope it happens. No one wants to take that trip down the 401 on the Highway of Heroes. But you know that if it comes down to it, someone's going to do it for you.
Thank you very much for your time, Chris. It's been a pleasure.